Hey everyone, this is Jeff from GameTechno.com. Are you ready to dive into some Star Wars? I know I am, always ready for.
Yeah, and I am Hannah, and it's time for a good Star Wars discussion.
Well, get ready because today we're talking about the Star Wars Heritage Pack coming to Nintendo Switch. My notifications have been going crazy since it was announced.
Yeah, it's safe to say there's some serious buzz around this collection. I mean, who doesn't love a good dose of Star Wars nostalgia, right?
And especially on a modern console like the Switch, I can't wait to see these classics come to life.
Me too.
So for this deep dive, we're looking at an awesome article from GameTechno called Explore the Star Wars Heritage Pack on Nintendo Switch.
Awesome.
We're going to break down the hype, like what games are included, what's new, and why this isn't just a simple re-release.
Sounds good.
Well, let's jump in. First things first, what games are actually in this pack?
Yeah, that's the big question. What's really cool is that this pack doesn't just limit itself to one genre or era of Star Wars games. It's got a little bit of everything, which makes it a pretty sweet deal.
Okay, so what are we talking about here? What games made the cut?
All right, so get ready for a trip down memory lane because we've got a total of 7 games in this collection.
Whoa, 7? Okay, late on me.
Okay, so we've got Star Wars, Jerem Knight, Jedi Academy, Star Wars Jedi Knight 3, Jedi Outcast.
Nice. The Jedi Knight games.
Yeah.
Classic.
And then there's Star Wars Episode Eraser,
Ooh, pod racing. Yes.
Star Wars Republic Commando,
Love that one.
Star Wars The Force Unleashed,
Another great choice.
Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic,
A classic RPG. Yes.
and last but certainly not least, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, the Sith Lords.
Wow, that is an impressive lineup. I mean, lightsaber duels, squad tactics, pod racing, epic RPG adventures. They really did cover all the bases, huh?
Yeah, it's like they handpicked the best of the best for this collection.
I bet they didn't just dust off the old code and slap it on a cartridge. Right? You know?
You'd think that, wouldn't you?
I mean, they got to modernize it somehow, right?
Oh, absolutely. And they did. From what we're seeing in the article, it sounds like they put in a lot of work to bring these games up to modern standards.
Ooh, like what kind of stuff? Spill the details.
Well, for starters, they've updated the graphics, things like textures and lighting. It's not just a superficial makeover either. It actually adds to the immersion of the game.
So they're giving these classics a facelift, but keeping the core experience intact. I like that.
Exactly. And from what the article says, they seem to have found a good balance. On top of the visuals, they've also modernized the controls,
Oh, that's huge. Making it more intuitive for the Switch. That's really smart.
right? And they even mentioned that Star Wars Episode 1 Racer now runs at a silky smooth 60 PMs on the Switch.
Wait, hold on. What does 60 PS even mean for those of us who aren't, tech experts? How does that change things?
Okay, so think of it this way. Imagine you're watching a movie and the picture is all choppy and laggy, right? Now imagine that same movie, but everything is super crisp and smooth. That's basically the difference between lower frame rate and 60 FT. It's a huge improvement.
So like everything feels super responsive.
Yeah, exactly. And for a fast-paced racing game like Episode 1 Racer, it's going to be amazing.
I can only imagine whizzing through those canyons at 60 VPPs. Oh man, I'm getting hyped just thinking about it. It's going to be awesome. Okay, so we know the lineup is incredible and they've done some serious work on the visuals and performance, but there has to be more, right? What else makes this Heritage Pack special?
Well, this one is for the collectors out there. The physical release of the Heritage Pack is actually a limited edition.
Really? A limited edition?
Yeah, and you know what that means. It's probably going to be pretty valuable down the line.
Ooh, that's a good point. Collectors are going to go crazy for this for sure.
It's not just a game at that point. It's like a piece of gaming history.
Exactly. So we've got a killer lineup, awesome updates, and even collector's value.
It's shaping up to be pretty incredible.
But before we get too carried away, we need to talk about storage space, and we need to dive deeper into some of these games and really unpack what this collection means for the future of Star Wars gaming.
All that and more coming up. Okay, so welcome back. We've talked about all these awesome games, but let's be real for a second. With 7 games in this pack, some of them pretty huge, how much space are we going to need on our switches?
Right, that's a good point. Storage space is always a hot topic for Switch owners.
Definitely. So the article actually breaks it down for us. 5 of the games are included on the cartridge itself.
Okay, cool.
So which ones? It's Jedi Academy, Jedi Outcast, Episode Eraser, Republic Commando, and The Force Unleashed, all on the cartridge.
Sweet. So those are ready to go right out of the box.
Yeah, exactly. And those 5 together, like they take up about 10.4 gigabit tests. So
10.4 gigabit test, huh? That's not bad actually, considering some games these days can be like twice that size.
yeah, that's true. But here's the thing. Knights of the Old Republic, both 1 and 2, those are going to be digital downloads,
Ah, okay, so not everything is on the cartridge.
right? And those 2 together, they're going to need about 28 gigabytes.
28 GB. Wow, they weren't kidding when they called those games epic.
Yeah, those are some big files. So in total, you're looking at about 31.4 gigabyte for the whole heritage pack.
Okay, 38.4 GBE. Yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind. Especially if you're like me and have a ton of games on your Switch already.
Aha, yeah, I know that feeling. It might be time to do some spring cleaning, archive some stuff you're not playing right now.
Yeah, definitely going to have to make some room for these Star Wars classics. But hey, it's worth it, right? To have all these amazing games in one place.
Oh, totally worth it. And it's interesting actually having some games on the cartridge and others as downloads. It kind of reflects where the gaming industry is headed. You know, it's like a blend of physical and digital.
That's a good point. Like we still get that satisfaction of owning a physical copy, but we also get the convenience of digital downloads.
Exactly. And this heritage pack is a perfect example of how both can work together.
Love it. But let's get back to the games themselves for a minute. I'm really impressed with all the work they put into updating them. You know, sometimes you see these RE releases and they feel kind of lazy, like they just ported the game and called it a day.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean, but this feels different.
Yeah, this feels like they actually care about these games and want them to shine on the Switch.
Right. From what we've read, it seems like they put in a lot of effort to make sure these games not only look good, but they play well too.
They want that authentic experience, but with a modern twist.
Yeah. And speaking of looking good, the graphical updates are amazing. They've really overhauled the textures and lighting, especially for games like Knights of the Old Republic, which is over 20 years old. It's like night and day.
Wow, it must look incredible. Like they breathe a new life into these classics.
Exactly. It's not just making things look sharper, it's about enhancing the mood, the atmosphere.
It's like they took an old masterpiece and restored it to its former glory. Yeah, detail, all the artistry, you can really appreciate it now.
Perfectly said. And the modernized controls are a big deal too. I mean, the originals might feel clunky by today's standards, so updating them makes the games way more accessible.
Definitely. So it's not just about making them look good, it's about making them feel good to play too.
Exactly. They've got that balance just right.
But what about the actual gameplay itself? Like, have they changed the core mechanics of the game at all?
That's a good question. Honestly, the article doesn't really go into detail about that, but okay. It does mention that their main goal was to preserve the original gameplay experience.
Okay, so no major overhauls.
No, it seems like they mainly focused on the presentation and controls, making sure it looks and feels good on the Switch, which honestly is the right call, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. You don't want to mess with the classic too much. These games are beloved for a reason.
Right, it's about respecting what made those games great in the first place.
Now, I got to ask about something that's always important to me, especially in fast-paced games.
Yeah,
Frame rate. Did they improve that at all?
this is where it gets really exciting, especially for fans of episode iRacer. Remember how we talked about it running at 60 FPS on the Switch?
Yeah, 60 FPS, that's got to be huge.
Huge improvement over the original.
I mean, I'm not a tech expert or anything, but even I know a higher frame rate means a smoother, more responsive experience.
Totally. And for a racing game where every millisecond counts, that smoothness is everything.
It's going to feel so fluid and immersive, like you're actually in the cockpit.
Exactly. And, beyond all the technical stuff, We have to talk about the nostalgia factor.
Oh, the nostalgia. I mean, these games are classics for a reason. They hold a special place in our hearts.
Right, they bring back so many memories, whether it's from childhood or just from falling in love with the Star Wars universe.
And now we get to experience those memories again, maybe even share them with a new generation of gamers.
Exactly. It's like passing down a family treasure.
It really is. And it speaks to the power of video games. They're more than just entertainment. They're like vessels for memories and emotions.
I love that. Vessels for memories. It's perfect.
So we've covered a lot about the Heritage Pack, the games, the updates, the nostalgia. But there's one big question we haven't addressed yet. What does this collection tell us about the evolution of Star Wars gaming? What does it say about the legacy of these games?
That's a great question and one that deserves some serious thought. Let's take a moment to ponder that and then we'll unpack it in our final segment.
Okay, so we're back and I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on this. What does this collection tell us about Star Wars gaming? Where does it fit to the big picture?
Well, I think it goes way beyond just the games themselves, you know?
Okay, how so?
It's like this collection, it's like a history lesson, a snapshot of how Star Wars games have evolved.
Interesting. So we're not just looking at these games in isolation, we're seeing them as part of a bigger timeline.
Exactly. You've got Knights of the Old Republic, which was this groundbreaking RPG, and then you have Jedi Outcast, which was all about mastering lightsaber combat. And then Republic Commando, which brought a whole new level of intensity to the Clone Wars with its squad-based gameplay.
So each game represents a different era of Star Wars gaming, but they all contribute to this larger narrative.
Yeah, for sure. And when you look at it that way, you can really see how Star Wars games have matured, how they've adapted to new technologies, embraced new storytelling techniques.
Right. They've kept pace with the evolution of gaming itself.
Exactly. And through it all, they've stayed true to the heart of Star Wars. The themes, the characters, the universe. Yeah, it's all there.
It's pretty amazing to see it all laid out like this. It makes you appreciate how far Star Wars games have come.
Definitely. And this heritage pack, it gives us a chance to trace that evolution, to see how those early games paved the way for the games we have today.
Yeah, it's like connecting the dots, seeing how each game influenced the next. So we've talked a lot about what makes this collection special, the nostalgia, the updates, the legacy. But for someone who might still be on the fence about buying it, what's the one thing you tell them to convince them?
Honestly, it's just an incredible value. You're getting 7 classic Star Wars games, many of them considered to be the best of the best.
And for a really good price too.
Yeah, especially if you catch it on sale, like the article mentioned. But even beyond the price, you're getting a chance to experience these games in a way that wasn't possible.
Before, with all the enhancements and updates.
Exactly. The graphics, the controls, the performance, it's a whole new level of immersion.
And for anyone who's never played these games before, this is the perfect opportunity to discover them.
Oh, yeah. It's like a gateway to a whole world of Star Wars gaming history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there you have it, folks. If you love Star Wars, if you love classic games, if you love incredible gaming experiences, the Star Wars Heritage Pack is a must-have. Yeah.
What are you waiting for?
Click on our link and go grab it, and may the Force be with you.